What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Into the Pit. I am Dr. Gutts.
I'm Hellhound.
And on this episode, we're going to break down one of my favorite albums of all time. And this is Symbolic by the Almighty Death. Now, we had a discussion before this about what we deemed our own, perfect albums. And there's only a handful of albums I personally would consider perfect albums. And this, along with Leprosy, would be some of them. I love Symbolic so much. It was the album that got me into Death. I heard Crystal Mountain and it was over from there. From there, I started finding their back catalog. So this was kind of the gateway to all of Death and death metal in general for me.
I can agree with that. And we both agree that Symbolic is our second favorite, next to Leprosy, with Scream Bloody Gore being a close third.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I think that this is definitely an amazing album. As you said, it's definitely a. I go as far as to say it's perfect as well. Yep. There's not really a bad song on this album. There's no filler. There's no songs I find myself skipping over. It's a great album front to back, and I pop it in, I listen to the entire thing.
The whole thing.
And it's nothing short of incredible.
It's one of those albums I can't pop in and just listen to one song.
Exactly.
I can't. And that doesn't happen very often. If I'm going to listen to anything on this album, it's going to be the whole album.
For sure.
I'm going to cut on Symbolic, I'm going to listen all the way through to Perennial Quest, and I'm going to feel awesome about it every time. This album is chock full of incredible riff after incredible riff, mixed with an ever-evolving lyrical style by Chuck. I mean, this album is the more philosophical side of Death. That kind of started in the human individual thought patterns kind of era, kind of waning away from the more gore-drenched, blood-laden lyrics of their first two and partially first three albums.
That's right. And this has been our first album discussion, too, by the way. I've reviewed a lot of albums, on my own show. And I figured, doing an album review of a Death album would be, perfect with talking about it with Dr. Gutts, seeing as Death is his favorite band. They're one of my favorite bands as well. I think that'd be way better to do a review with his thoughts added as well. Now, released in 1995, Symbolic was the sixth album by Chuck Schuldiner and Company. And it's definitely, as I said, my second favorite next to Leprosy. And it definitely doesn't have a bad track on the album. And as soon as you hear that opening riff come on, when you start the album and the title track comes in, it's right up there with, it's one of the greatest moments, it's right up there with the way South of Heaven by Slayer starts out. You hear the opening riff, you're immediately hooked, and it grabs you, and it never lets go. Throughout the whole album, it's just an incredible journey. Chuck Schuldiner really matured a lot as a musician, as evident with this album. This is their second to the last. The next one was Sound of Perseverance, sorry, and that was a fine album, unfortunately.
Yeah, Sound of Perseverance was also an incredible album.
Exactly. They don't have a bad album at all.
I don't think they have a bad song.
No.
I'm kind of biased. They're my favorite band of all time. But I genuinely don't think that they have a bad song. And
For sure.
And that's trying to look at it objectively. I think that all their songs are incredible.
And this album's a testament to that. It contains a lot of Chuck's most chaotic riffs, some excellent palm-muted interludes, even some little slower, more melodic songs like Crystal Mountain. That's kind of a slightly more... a little more slower for death metal standards anyway. A little more haunting and a little more slower paced track. And
Crystal Mountain also has the one part where it's the interlude that has the more steel stringed guitar.
Yeah.
The
almost acoustic
sounding guitar interlude, which is really cool. This album has a lot of really cool things like that. For instance, the beginning of Empty Words is a nice, more clean intro to a song that kind of breaks out into this very powerful, really masterpiece of a song that has some more mid-paced parts. It's not too fast, kind of mid-paced, incredible lyrics, incredible riffs, and that's kind of what this album is. This album is an assortment of just amazing lyrics, amazing riffs, just tied together with perfect songwriting. And of course, you have Gene Hoglan on drums, who he is my favorite drummer of all time.
Oh, he's a virtuoso. He's just a master behind the drum kit.
He's so good.
Breathtaking.
Everything he's done, be it Death, Testament, Dark Angel, whatever, the drums are always top notch. And he was also in Individual Thought Patterns.
Yeah, this is the second album featuring him on drums.
Absolutely.
Too.
So, yeah,
he's one of the only members who is on two albums, along with Bill Andrews and Terry Butler. He's one of the only members that was on more than one album, not counting Schuldiner, obviously. It's his band.
Yeah, so it's really cool. Any album with Gene Hoglan, I'm in. Any album with Chuck Schuldiner, I'm in. Perfect combination. And we also had Kelly Conlon on bass, and Bobby Coble. I apologize, Billy Coble on guitar as well.
And Bobby Coble wasn't like my favorite guitarist they have. I think that James Murphy and Andy LaRoque especially and Rick Ross were way better. But on this album, he really shines.
Shannon Hamm was incredible.
Yeah, he was great. It's really a shame that Bobby Coble didn't do more, least of all with Death, but with other bands as well. He was on like maybe a couple other albums from other bands, and he actually has his own YouTube channel in which he plays guitar. He does a lot of acoustic stuff, and he even like teaches guitar lessons, and he's very interactive with his fans. If you leave comments on his videos, he has his own channel. I've actually talked to him briefly on there before, and I told him how much I love Symbolic, and he's a very great guy, very relatable, and
very down to earth.
Yeah, and very very cool with his fans. Very cool guy, very cool personality, great musician, very underrated and overlooked. Not a lot of people talk about how great Bobby Coble is, but he's on one of the best metal albums ever. So I think the fact that he didn't really do much else, and that's how great he is. He was on this album. That's good enough. If you play on Symbolic, then hell, that's all you need.
If you're on like one of the most flawless albums ever written, then you definitely have some musical chops behind you.
For sure.
One song I definitely want to talk about is my favorite track on the album, and that's Misanthrope.
Yes.
I love Misanthrope so much. It is the most like death metal song on the album.
For sure.
Obviously it's death. The whole thing's death metal, but it is the most like pure death metal track. It has some very fast tremolo picked parts, and it has this one really really heavy riff. It actually kind of evolves into the chorus. It's like this palm muted part that's incredible, and it transitions from a palm muted chug to a really fast, like still palm muted but less muted riff afterwards. That's just really heavy, and it's just like one of the most, if I could use the term, head bangable riffs of all time. It gets your head banging every time, and that's something I completely love about the song, along with the lyrics just being really powerful about a misanthrope, hater of all mankind.
You want to jump into a mosh pit.
It's so good, and it follows Crystal Mountain, which is just such a cool little combination of songs. And of course, after that, you have Perennial Quest.
And Misanthrope goes into Perennial Quest really well. Like the style set up on Misanthrope perfectly blends into Perennial Quest. That song has one of my favorite solos ever. I think it's the one that Chuck playing. I believe. He's the one that did the solo in that song. And just incredible. Like he never fails to amaze me. It's like they never ran out of ideas. And that's what this album is a combination of a bunch of brilliant ideas all put into one. And there's just nothing like this album it never loses you. You never you never get bored or never wander. Never do anything. You never want to do anything else. You just listen to this album and it just captivates you from beginning to end.
Seamless transitions between songs, seamless transitions within songs. It's just, I genuinely feel as though it's a flawless album front to back. And if you just listen to like how it flows from Symbolic to Zero Tolerance to Empty Words to Sacred Serenity, it all just works so well. Everything works so well. The lyrics are, again, amazing. The vocals are incredible. There's vocal patterns that are even, like, catchy. For death metal, even, like, death metal is not the catchiest of subgenres. There's some catchy moments on this album, which is really cool to hear. Especially with Chuck's brilliant vocals. I love it. I think it's just done so well.
His style kind of changed from album to album. Like, he always did something different. Like, it always sounded like Death, but it sounded fresh and original at the same time. It was always like a new spin on things. It was always refreshing. And it never got old. You never wore out its welcome like some other bands. But yeah, Chuck Schuldner's vocals in this are, as he said, are excellent. He sounds like he's about to vomit on the mic, which is a huge compliment when it comes to death metal. And he just sounds like so evil and wicked. It's hard to believe he's such a nice guy in real life. So down around, he wore shirts with like kittens on it, and like he was just so nice and like just such a great guy. And then he's saying about like all this evil, like bloody, gory stuff. But this album was actually like one of the ones where I think it was the last one to feature the original logo. Or no, this isn't the original logo. This is one of the... that ended on...
That was the second logo,
Yeah. I can't remember which the last one to...
I think it was Human.
I think it was either Human or...
It was the last one to have, like, the Reaper and all of that stuff.
Yeah, it's still...
because Sound of Perseverance had the more, like, clean-cut logo.
Yeah, they got rid of the spider web and the inverted cross, and it kind of reflects the songwriting was like not necessarily like better, but it was like a little more mature, a little more realistic direction. It was like a little less like theatrical. It was a little less like a audio version of a horror movie, and kind of more about real world issues. Like
it was more philosophical and less
stuff.
like fantastic.
Exactly. Yeah, it was like less fictitious and a little more down to earth, a little more grounded. Which is a good thing. I like both. Best of both worlds. I think Death accomplished both, and I think they did it very well.
Yeah, for instance, Crystal Mountain talks about like the atrocities of like religion and things like that, and like the corruption
religion used as a form of terrorism, and how it can be used in the wrong way, and how some people overdo it and use it for their own twisted agenda. Like I think that's kind of the vibe I got from a lot of his later writing, especially.
Which it's really cool to hear like somebody who's like a lyrical genius like Chuck sing about these things. He just does it so much better than most other people.
Very intriguing topics and done in a very mature and sophisticated manner. And Zero Tolerance and Empty Words are both great tracks. I think they also go seamlessly together, kind of like Misanthrope and Perennial Quest. Then of course that goes right into Sacred Serenity, which features another one of my favorite solos. A really heavy, very memorable, very catchy riff that you'll find yourself humming. It'll stay with you after you listen to this album.
Yeah, this is the choruses for me. The chorus
catchy
of
chorus.
Sacred Serenity just sticks with me for hours.
So it's an earworm for sure. Definitely right up there with songs like Forgotten Past from Leprosy. It's just right up. It's like really, really catchy and really memorable. Then there's 1,000 Eyes, which of course has features some really great lyrics as well as just like Crystal Mountain. Very well written, very well structured, very well arranged.
Absolutely.
All the musicians he got, of course, Gene Hoglan, as we said, is just a drumming legend. He's one of the best drummers ever. He's right up there with Dave Lombardo and Pete Sandoval, and anybody who has Gene Hoglan as their favorite, like he does, you're right on the money. Absolutely. And Kelly Conlon and Bobby Coble, as we said, are a little lesser known, but they definitely get the job done on this album for sure. And if they didn't do anything else, hell, they excelled on this recording. Absolutely.
And again, guys, this right there up with Leprosy. This is like one of my favorite albums of all time. It's so good. But yeah,
if you haven't heard it, go check it out right away. Now the first Death album I actually heard was actually the debut, Scream Bloody Gore, and that's what got me into Death. Then I started discovering their other work, and after I listened to all their albums front to back several times, I eventually put Leprosy and Symbolic in my top 2 for good reason, and I think you'll check this album out. You won't be disappointed. You'll be glad that you did. I think you'll be very pleased with what you hear. Chuck Schuldiner was a genius. Rest in peace. There will never be another like him, but his legacy will live on through his amazing music. Truly was a legend. God amongst men.
Yeah, guys, I think we're gonna wrap up this video. I just had an idea. I was thinking, if you guys want us to discuss a certain album, let us know in the comments below. I think that'd be a pretty fun thing to do.
That'd be a very
Hear
good
what
way to
you
interact
guys
with our fans
want us to talk about, because we love metal. You all love metal, so let's talk about what you guys want to hear as well. I think that'd be.
What are some of your favorite albums? If you'd like to hear our thoughts on it and see us analyze the album in vivid detail, let us know in the comments.
Absolutely.
We're willing to do just about any album too. There's not really any limits, as long as it's metal.
As long as it's metal. That's all we ask. But yeah, guys.
No Michael Bolton.
What's wrong with Michael Bolton?
Oh, nothing.
So, guys, make sure like and subscribe to the channel. We will be doing obviously more Into the Pit. We love doing this. We want to do more again. We want to interact with you guys. If you guys want an album, let us know. Leave a comment below. And as always, guys, we've been Into the Pit. Keep it metal.